What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And on today's episode, we'll be breaking down the Bulls' final week of the regular season leading into the playoffs, their magic number being one. We'll also talk about Kobe White's cold shooting streak, Alex Caruso's back, and then more solid games from P. Will. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, so Bulls fans, as we know, the Bulls lost a game against the Miami Heat, blown out at home. Even though they have an amazing home record, that it sucks, right? It didn't feel good to watch the Bulls lose in that manner. There were a couple of things that went down in that game that caused the Bulls to lose that game and not be in it. One was the cold shooting overall. It was the lack of defensive intensity down the stretch. It was not rotating out on key three-point shooters. And then also Miami Heat just hit some shots that were well contested. Now, none of that's excusable. But heading into the Bulls' final week of the season, we have 4 games up, our final 4 games of this season. We got Milwaukee coming up tomorrow. Then we got Boston the day after that on Wednesday. And then we also have on Friday, we're playing against the Charlotte Hornets. And then we end our season against the Minnesota Timberwolves on Sunday. The time of that game has finally been announced now. It has been TBD for a while now. That game will go down at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So we now have or know what's going on for the Bulls to end their season. The Bulls, like I said, their magic number sits at 1. So either 1 win by them or 1 more loss by the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Bulls will avoid the play-in. The Bulls control their own destiny. For a long time, I've been saying the Bulls really have lost the right to really control their own playoff destiny. Well, they have that control back in a sense, right? They don't get to pick their opponent or anything like that, but they can very well control them avoiding the play-in scenario by winning at least 1 more game out of these last 4. Now, we know that the Bulls have struggled against top teams. So it's going to be tough against Milwaukee. It's going to be tough against Boston. It's going to be tough from here out. Every team that we play from the rest is going to be playoff teams. But the Bulls can win these games, right? They can. They can be in and competitive. The Milwaukee game is going to be definitely tough. That's probably the game the one that I look at on the schedule where I'm just like the Bulls. It's gonna be tough for them to do that. We'll see how they fare tomorrow, see how they come in, what their focus is, what their level of intensity is. But at the end of the day, as we finish out this season, it remains a couple of questions that the Bulls can answer. Can they beat a top team? Right? Can they keep up that consistency for a longer stretch of the season? Lonzo Ball, that's another question that we are going to get the answer to at some point this week. Now, not that he's going to return this week, but we are expecting big news about the middle of the week as far as Lonzo Ball's recovery, when he is probably going to be slated to at least return to contact practice. We're looking at all of that in this final week of the season. This is going to be one of the most important final weeks of a Bulls season in quite a while. So just watching the Bulls in this and seeing how they fight, their intensity, their focus, the coaching, what does the coaching staff do to help this team? All those type of things. We have tons of questions remaining with the final week. Now, with that being said, expectations for this Bulls team has varied from some people at the height of them playing well to being a possible Eastern Conference final team to fans of this franchise thinking, hey, the Bulls would be lucky to even make the play-in. At the end of the day, are the Bulls going to make it out the first round? That remains to be seen. It really depends on their matchup, if they can and how they play. It's not likely at this point, but that's, it is what it is there. We'll see what happens with that. But like I said, the Bulls do control their own destiny. They need 1 more win to avoid that play-in scenario. Let's go ahead and get into the next topic in this one. So the 4 games that we have coming up next, we got Milwaukee on Tuesday. We got Boston on Wednesday. That's a back-to-back. There's already been some talk of, is Zach LaVine going to rest on the back-to-back? He's come out and said some things that, hey, at this point with the knee, expect him out there. So we'll see if the franchise has him out there, if they try to rest him against Boston. But these first 2 games in this week are probably the 2 games that we need to look the most towards, right? We need to see what this team does against those 2 teams who are top teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, Boston has fluctuated between the 1 to the 4. So they can either be our first round matchup or a team that we possibly won't see. We'll see what happens with that. But I need to see the Bulls come out with intensity. They got punched in the face against Miami, and they need to come out with some intensity against these 2 teams and against this 4-game streak as a whole. So we'll see what happens with that. Kobe White's cold shooting. I'm going to play this clip because I know a lot of Bulls fans. This frustrated them. It also frustrated my co-host on Locked On Bulls, Pat the designer. He had a whole video for it, but we're going to go and play this clip, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Coby White.
To the team, like where is the team now? You know, having gotten this deep in, like on the verge of going to the playoffs.
We won. We won. Clap it up. Yeah, but I'm talking about this. Yeah. I went to school there, North Carolina. Yeah, I got coached by the coach. You know, I went to school there. Proud of Coach Davis and the guys.
You got a bad foul against the Bulls some years back.
Who?
Hubert Green, you know, you got a
Hubert Davis?
Yeah, Hubert Davis.
Yeah, no, that's all good.
No, I'm just saying, what's your sense of where the team is now with, you know, with just a week left basically in the season, the pulse of the team, what's your feeling about where you guys are?
I feel like we feel good, but you know, like you said, we gotta learn from losses like this. But for us right now, you know, we got one game at a time. That's how we look at it. We got one game coming up against Milwaukee. We're not really looking to, we got 4 games left. Let's just get through the season. We're trying to get better each and every game and pull out some wins towards the end of the season. So we're taking it one game at a time. You know, we continue to learn. We continue to grow. Like I said, we're all together as a unit, and we all believe in ourselves, whoever's out there on the court. So, you know, we're coming in, you know, each game looking to compete and looking to, you know, grow and learn and continue to get better.
Any thoughts on Coach?
All right, so that was Coby during a press conference after the UNC victory over Duke, and him just, you know, he was excited. Clap it up. We won. You can even hear in the reporters that were there, the press that was there, that they were kind of awkward by it as well. Now, I know a lot of people have jumped on this and saying this is Coby's young, and that's what I get from this clip. He's a young player he's a child in many ways, and that's what you got from this. Now, he did, and the reason why I played the length of the clip that I did is because I did want to hear, you heard very much about the clap it up and the we won thing, but I want to play that and what he also said about the fact that the team needs to get better and what the team needs to do and how their focus is on the next game up and stuff like that. But with it being said, Coby's cold shooting streak is not going to last. I mean, it's not going to cut it, right? It may last. Hopefully it doesn't, but it's not going to cut it. And that's the cold shooting from the team overall, right? I don't want to just zero it in on Coby because we're not shooting the 3-ball well at all as a team here lately. But with that being said, Coby needs to tighten up. Our bench scoring is terrible, and the bench scoring is something that we do need to figure out what's going on with because we need bench scoring. Bench scoring is important, especially in the playoff atmosphere. So because of that, yes, Coby's recent shooting streak is very concerning. The streaky shooter thing is one thing, but it's been bad. It's been bad. Even in the games where he has scored in double digits here lately, he still has not shot the ball very well from 3. And you know, it's wide open shots. It's the wide open shots that are concerning to me because that, to me, is about the focus of a player, right? Yes, you're not going to make every shot. You're not even going to make every wide open shot, but the amount of wide open shots that Coby White is missing is concerning. And Bulls fans, especially when we're losing, are very frustrated by this, and it makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of sense for Bulls fans. It makes a lot of sense for Bulls fans to be very concerned and frustrated with Coby White's current shooting streak. So hopefully he can tighten it up. Hopefully the Bulls team overall can get their 3-point shooting together, and Coby can be a more effective scorer off the bench because, listen, I get it. And I understand that I'm not even going to defend it anymore, that a lot of Bulls fans are over Coby White. But at the end of the day, at least for this season and through these playoffs, Coby is going to be on this team. We'll have a conversation about what needs to happen or what should happen or what we want to happen in the offseason when we get there. But as long as Coby White is on this team, we need him to play better. He's doing some more things than just scoring, and I will give him that. But the shooting has to come around for him and a lot of other players on this Bulls team. Let's also talk about Alex Caruso's back. And, you know, Billy Donovan said he's hobbled out there. And it's funny to see because it makes sense. As somebody who suffers from some back injuries, you see spurts of Alex Caruso doing the cutting things, doing the off-the-ball things, doing the defensive things, doing those active things we're used to seeing Alex Caruso do. But one thing it's not sustained. Alex Caruso is slowing down in the second half. He is having, like I said, spurts of that type of energy, but then we're not seeing that sustained over the game like we're used to seeing from Alex Caruso. That back injury, how concerning is that going to be heading into the playoffs? How much can they even hope to get that together? Again, you know, this team's been dealing with injuries all season, and it's not necessarily an excuse for that, but, you know, hats off to Alex Caruso for trying to play through it, but it's noticeable out there. And I wouldn't necessarily say he's hurting the team per se by playing with that back injury, but it is definitely something that we need to look towards, especially when Javonte Green isn't getting a lot of minutes anymore. Maybe they can offset some of that and use Alex Caruso in less minutes and sparingly while that back gets back into full gear. Who knows? Well, that remains to be seen. That's another question that we need the answer to before the end of the season. Now, I'm going to end this video on talking about Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams has strung together 3 very solid games in a row. And a lot of Bulls fans are now calling and asking, why is he not starting? Should he be starting? I think he should. They don't pay me to make those decisions. At the end of the day, it's about the minutes that you play. Patrick in the last 2 games has played over 30 minutes, and he's been in there in crunch time. And is that enough for some people? Some fans just want to see him start. And I understand that, but especially with Milwaukee coming in town tomorrow, hopefully the Bulls are looking at the size that Patrick Williams brings into the game, as well as the intensity and the just the momentum that he's been bringing lately. Like, we want to see it sustained. And that's one thing that I've always said with Patrick Williams, that we need to see it sustained and over a longer period of time. But he's strung 3 games together of that. And let's see if it can be something that continues to end this regular season, as well as heading into the playoffs. Patrick Williams is playing very well. He has answered that challenge that Billy Donovan laid in front of him. But I want to see the rest of the team also answer challenges. Billy Donovan has said that players need to earn their minutes. They need to earn their starting positions. And at the end of the day, there are some players that are just not playing up to that. We need answers on why Javonte isn't playing more. Derrick Jones Jr., especially in a game like Milwaukee, if he doesn't play, it's going to raise more questions from Bulls fans. I always say that this channel is the voice of the fans. Well, the fans have a lot of questions on why certain players are not playing in matchups where we need those players' skill set. And hopefully we see answers to those questions before the end of the season as well. This last week, there's a lot of questions to be answered. Can the Bulls answer that? It remains to be seen. I understand people who are saying that the Bulls aren't going to. I understand the people that say the Bulls can. I understand even the people who say, hey, we know the answers to these questions already by what we've seen. But how the Bulls finish this season is going to be drastically important to the momentum they go into the playoffs with, and the focus and attitude that the fans also have coming into to support this team heading into the playoffs. It's great. It feels amazing that we're getting our first playoff berth in a long time. This has been coming. This has been needed for the Chicago Bulls franchise. It's been needed for this fan base. But at the end of the day, the questions that remain to be answered, let's see if we get those questions answered in this final week of the season. Make sure you're following the podcast at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a voicemail, you can do so at 773-270-2799. Like I like to end every video on, see red, don't be red. Go Bulls. I love you guys. Peace, y'all.